Hi, I'm Mike Conlon, your host of the Weiser Books Radio Hour. Today's guests are power couple Amy Zerner and Monte Farber, creators, artists, and authors of over 45 books and oracles, including Quantum Affirmations, Instant Tarot, Karma Cards, The Enchanted Tarot, and Sun Sign Secrets. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike.
It's great to meet you.
We love Weisers. We've been working with you guys for so long.
Yeah, you know what? That was another thing I was trying to think of was when your first publication with us came out. I think it was right when Red Wheel bought Samuel Weiser and created the company Red Wheel Weiser.
Yeah.
How did you guys get involved with Red Wheel Weiser at the very beginning like that?
We knew Michael since he worked at Tuttle.
Got it. All right.
So him and Jan came to us and said, well, we just bought this company and now we want you to do
your
relationship secrets because you guys have such a great relationship. And we looked at each other and said, well, we don't have any secrets. And they said, well, you better get some.
So we got some and
this is it, the soulmate path. Okay. So it's kind of fun because I had a brief hiatus from the company between 2005 and then I came back on board in 2013. So I remember that from way back, but it looks like we've done a whole lot since then. I was involved with Sun Sign Secrets and Instant Tarot. Monte, we got one of yours called Quantum Affirmations.
Yep.
Quantum Affirmations is, I have a feeling that if it's as good as I think it is, it's what I'm going to be remembered by and not the astrology, strangely enough. Because, one day I looked at my life and I said, how did a homeless kid from Brooklyn with, mental illness in his family get to have this wonderful life? And I figured it out and I used the concepts of quantum physics and approached consciousness as the smallest particle. And then threw the whole thing out the window when we started doing videos for it. And because it all became more of a channeled book, and it has helped a lot of people manifest the lives they want to live.
It's wonderful when your publisher lets you do creative work like that.
Yeah.
We don't know quite what it's going to be until it starts coming forth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our process. Sometimes I think of the title and then he has to write it out.
We have a couple that we still can't figure out, like Psychic Makeover and
I'd love to do a psychic makeover.
Yeah, but we can't figure it out.
I'm not sure what it is.
Right.
But you've got a title, so there's a start.
Yeah, we work backwards from the title.
So I know that on our end, and I imagine with other publishers, you get pushback on a title. They don't like the title. They want a title.
And once in a while, and I guess in the end, they're right. I mean, that's we collaborate together, and sometimes I say, Monte, you got to change the word "the," and he like, no.
Yeah, how dare they?
But it does bring the best in the end, and I do like you guys know your business, your audience. I mean, we don't always know for sure, the cover and everything, but it is so collaborative, the publishing business. And I welcome, we know our stuff and we know our end. So when you're looking at it fresh and, I mean, especially a sales department, right?
Yeah.
They're right in it, hearing what people want or don't like or, are looking for.
And we think of ourselves as we work for a living too. So we understand the sales department has to go in there and then they have to come back in a month. So they can't go and fight for your book. They hold it up, and if someone's interested, they'll look. If not, they'll put it back and go on to the next one, because it's what any normal person would do. But Amy is a title specialist. She
channel titles.
She channels titles, and I'll give you a couple of examples of how things got weird. Like we have an astrology cookbook called Signs and Seasons. It started off as Dining Under the Stars.
Okay.
Which I loved. I was kind of attached to that title.
And we sold it as that. And then by the time it got made, it was that. And then
they were, the publisher was afraid, it was HarperCollins, that it would be too much like Dancing with the Stars.
And then we had Metaphysical Fitness, and that became Astrology for Wellness. So that kind of stuff does happen. Because you gotta listen to the publisher. You guys are in the trenches.
Right. And it's awful nice to have some authors who understand that. So let me ask you this. We were, when I was talking about your first endeavor with Red Wheel Weiser, we were talking about circa 2000, 2001.
Yep.
From what I understand, y'all have been together as a creative team quite a bit longer than that.
Yeah.
47 years, but who's counting?
Right. This May.
So
Yeah.
how did you guys get together as a creative team, and how do you collaborate?
I mean, I was 23, he was 24. I was an artist, you know, in New York. You know, life was simpler then. You could live on less money, right? Monty was a musician.
Right. So I was stoned. So 24 years old, we met at the filming of a porno movie.
I think that's why Jan and Michael wanted us to write that book. Although
it's in the book. It's in Soul.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It was a good opener.
Right. And it was classic because, you know, they said, well, now you're going to read it.
Actually, I love to hear how people meet because, you know, it's unexpected sometimes. And that certainly was.
Yeah. Well, it was a clean scene. It was a rooftop party scene on a rooftop party.
But, you know, Monty was a musician. And I think we admired each other for being original thinkers. I was starting to do my tapestry work. You know, just at the very beginning of branching off and finding my own techniques, and Monty was playing with a fake Jimi Hendrix band.
Well, I was a session musician. I would play with anyone who paid me. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. But Amy had done the bedspread for the original play Broadway of Chicago.
Oh, nice.
Tony Walton, the Academy Award-winning set designer, gave her a shot at building this multi-layered bedspread that Cheetah Rivera and Gwen Verdon and Liza Minnelli eventually danced on.
We've had so many nice, you know, magical meetings of people that really kind of affected our lives, changed our lives, and meeting each other, you know, was the biggest magical event. And I think we always supported each other. You know, we just right away became supportive of each other's dream, each other's work. It really made it easier to sort of go through rejections or whatever you go through as a creative person, because it's not easy to sort of, you know, if you don't fit into anybody's box, to keep it going. But I came from a family of artists.
I came from a family of bullshit artists.
Hey, Monty, what instrument did you play in the band?
I played the bass. I had a fretless Ampeg bass, which I loved, and I really would love to know what happened to. As every musician understands, there are a few that just disappeared along the way. That's certainly one of them.
I think we were saying this the other day, what our initial, you know, intention was with our work. Monty always wanted to help people,
right,
and teach people, and his songs were all about, you know, his spiritual philosophy. Because when we met, he was studying comparative religion, Yogananda's,
and I had this amazing band, you know, with people like Mark Rivera, who runs Billy Joel's band, and you know, Ringo Starr's band. I had Beth Sussman, who ran Whitney Houston's band, and I had Yogi Horton, one of the best drummers in the world. But I was doing songs like "We Are One," and nobody wanted to touch. And we're talking 1978.
He was true. He was true to himself, that's for sure. A true Aquarian, you know.
I think
so. Anyhow, it kind of evolved into doing the books, you know, writing the songs.
Right. Yeah. Karma Cards. You know, we live in the Hamptons, and we don't live in Atlantis. This is one of Amy's tapestries of Atlantis. It's not a window view. And we would go to parties, and I would do astrology for people, and they loved it. And they said, well, why don't you come up with a way that we don't necessarily need you being here to have this much fun? And I accepted that. And I came up with Karma Cards, which I can show you because
that was a first public.
Yeah, that came out. That came out the same time. That's our cat Zane, who just turned 20.
Wow.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. So that came out the same time Nancy Reagan was revealed to be using an astrologer. So it was for Penguin Books, and it came out. The first printing was supposed to be 15,000. It went to 45,000.
Wow.
Because you remember the days when they used to make those kind of numbers. And in terms of Amy, you know, I guess Michael was with Tuttle when Amy did her art book called Paradise Found, and now Amy has a new one coming out.
Wow. Yeah,
in the Enchanted World. So you know, we've been busy. This is all we do.
Yeah, I get that. So let me ask you about that. I mean, obviously we're not doing it.
No, I'm.
But let me ask you. No. I'm always fascinated by what people do. So Amy, is that textile art that you're photographing?
Yes, when I did the Enchanted Tarot, they were all tapestries.
Wow.
I did a tapestry, which is my own technique of collage, but it's all fabric collage, so it's all sewn together and has vintage fabrics and embellishments and appliques and embroidery. So that's what I started doing when I first met Monte in 1974, and just evolved. People always told me that, oh, your work is so complex, it can't be reproduced, but I ended up making my living reproducing my art in all these different ways. So we've done a few tarot decks, and we did the instant tarot. You know, the tarot and astrology are sort of our language. Monte and I, that's our language of love. We talk tarot, we talk astrology, you know, because all the archetypes, it's psychology. This one, it makes it really easy to learn to read.
In other words, anyone with a tarot deck can use that book, because I've interpreted every card. We interpreted every card in every position of a Celtic cross. So if you want to find out what's blocking me, you just read the number 3 position of the card you pick. There's 11 answers for every card, and each one of them is a different, you know, how do people see me? What's blocking me? What should I do? What'll be the outcome? They're all in there, so people can do. You know, Instant Tarot is actually the book for everybody with a tarot deck in their drawer, because this way you can read it right now. But I want to show you something. Amy's work is pretty extraordinary.
That's my studio.
This is Amy's studio.
Well, I'm inspired by all the symbolism in the tarot. I mean, for an artist, you know, all of life is in the tarot. So I really loved exploring that. I like working big. I like working in series. You know, I did 78 for the tarot, but we've invented, you know, various oracles that are a combination of my art and Monte's words. And I think that's a great way for me as an artist to get my work out in the world, as I didn't fit into any sort of movement, you know, which sometimes helps an artist to be part of a movement. But I guess now tarot is so popular, I am part of a movement.
Right. Well, actually, you're sort of like this. The Enchanted Tarot is one of the main ones, but this piece in the back here is actually 9 feet by 12 feet.
Is that a triptych?
No, it's one piece.
It looks like that. It's kind of, sometimes they're kind of architectural, where I divide it into.
Yeah, and then when Amy won the NEA, she started doing these kind of jackets, which are based on the Tibetan Tango pattern that they wear at the New Year, because she got tired of explaining her technique. So she just whip around and say, I do this, and point to a piece on, you know, the tapestry that was on the back. And someone from Bergdorf Goodman saw her work and said, I can sell that. And that was Amy's first and only store, is Bergdorf Goodman, which is the top of the heap in fashion.
Yeah,
well, sometimes the door opens and you got to go through. Even, you know, I wasn't trained as a fashion designer, but I kind of stepped up once I wanted my stuff. It was like I learned everything about it, and it's kind of exciting.
Amy, let me ask you this. I mean, you know, I see the background that you're up against. There's all that art that you've got in your studio. It looks like Monte's actually wearing some of your art.
I designed his shirt.
Perfect.
Well, I married a billboard. That's
right.
Right. How much time do you put in each day to actually practicing your art? I mean, how much time do you put into a day creating?
Let me answer that question. So the pandemic starts up, right?
Yeah.
And I notice movement. It's like watching the first plants of the poke their heads up through the snow. I noticed movement. The next thing I know, Amy has started doing paper collages, and there was 26 of them. You know, and I come down from a shower. What did you know? But she worked on it for months and months during the pandemic. It ended up being something that we're doing called the Wild Goddess Oracle.
Okay.
And she did 52 paper collages that if I'd still be working on number 1, because to glue anything down the way she does it.
Well, I work every day. I like, you know, I love it so much. I mean, it's, people say, you know, follow your passion or follow your dream.
That's old news around here.
No, I feel so grateful to be doing what, you know, using the gifts I was given, but also I have 3 planets in Aries. And so it's kind of driven. And we, you know, I have a beautiful studio. I walk in there every day and just start.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that. It looks like stuff piled all over the place.
Sure. No,
I make a big mess. My cat helps me.
For sure. So for something like the Enchanted Tarot, when When did that come out?
It came out in 1990. It took 2 years for her to make it.
That's
78 fabric collages.
Now, did you have other stuff going on at the time, or was it just
No,
solid working on that?
That was solid, that. And
that's
the
a big
way
effort.
I did it, the tarot, each card means something. So I would make a keyword like frustration or joy or discipline. And I would see, I don't sketch out. I just sort of let the image come through me. And, it was amazing. I did all the negative cards first because I had never really
get those out right out of the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they're some of the most beautiful. I think I was working in the movie business then, so I wasn't around to interfere.
We always tell people, keep your foot in the thing that's making you money. Like Monte kept in the movie business while he developed karma cards, and he would use them, and play with them and make sure it all worked, in between scenes.
Right. There's a movie called The Last Dragon, which was from Motown. I don't know if you ever seen it. It's like a kung fu musical comedy from Motown. It's actually the best movie I ever worked on. It's really good.
The Last Dragon. Okay.
The Last Dragon. It's a cult classic. And on one of the scenes, we were someplace and the director said, well, we'll call action as soon as Monte's finished reading reading Timok, or I was reading Vanity at the time. It was so embarrassing. But I would develop, had it on file cards, and then we were able to sell it in 1986.
Before computers, Mike.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to break up the meanings of the planets, the signs, and the houses of astrology. No computers, but it sort of rewired my brain, and then I was able to do this from now on.
Got it. All right. So when back to that question about how y'all collaborate, how does that work? I mean, Amy comes up with images and then you fill in the text.
Yes,
exactly right. You're the first person to ever get that.
Because usually, artists might illustrate, a book that's already written.
That ain't happening here.
Right. Well, I mean, so this is getting back to kind of some classic tarot stuff. Going back through some of the more important or popular tarot decks, you've always got Rider Waite Smith. Get rid of Rider, that was the publisher, but Waite was the guy who was telling Pamela Coleman Smith what he wanted to see in these drawings, and she drew.
I think I heard it was a little abusive, but I'm not.
I don't have the full history, but I know that for forever and a day it was the Rider Waite deck, and Smith was kind of an historical afterthought, and it's kind of gratifying to see her recognized more and more nowadays. The Thoth Tarot, it's Crowley's Thoth Tarot, but he, as much of an artist as he might have been, it was Lady Frida Harris who did the
that's incredible work. Yes.
Those are some amazing artwork.
I think it's pretty seamless here, where we go back and forth and respect each other's domain. I mean, I know Monte is an amazing writer, and I don't really touch that, and he really doesn't touch my images that much. But as far as forming the book and editing the book, we go back and forth and back and forth.
Right.
But I mean, our whole life is a brainstorm, basically.
Yeah. So when you're creating art, Monte never comes along and says, "I don't know about that," or when Monte's.
If she asks me.
If I ask him, and then bearing in mind that he is colorblind,
What? You gotta be kidding me.
No, it's so funny because she'll say, do you think the colors are right on this? I'm saying, I'm colorblind, you know that.
But I think he sees it. It is so helpful what he sees and doesn't see. And, I always respect what he says about it.
During World War I, they used colorblind people. They sent them up on airplanes because we can see through camouflage.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, so there, it's a different way of seeing. There's only one project we ever worked on where I would say to Amy, we need a sandstorm. It's like like we had a pizza place. There's not enough Sicilian in the kitchen. No,
because when you make an oracle, you have to make sure it covers everybody's questions and all the issues that might come up.
So we did.
great at that.
Well, thank you. We did something called the Alchemist that we had to change the name because of Coelho came out with the Alchemist.
Right.
So now it's the Mystic Messenger, and it had 48 different paper collages that Amy
Oh,
made.
you said I had to do a swamp.
I had to say, we need a swamp, Amy. We need 12 water categories, and this one we need the swamp. She's like, I'm not doing a swamp.
But I did.
Yeah. And
it's
this
quite
was
beautiful too.
This was back in the day when there was one color Xerox in the city of Manhattan.
Because
Wow.
we had to drive all the way to New York to get my color copies because that was part of my collage process.
And it was as big as like a Cadillac limousine.
Yeah.
It was so huge.
Well, I mean, you evolve with the tools that, I mean, look at the amazing, you can take pictures with your phone. And I mean, it's an amazing time, you know, if you're willing to explore and experiment and stay up to date with the tools that are offered us now.
Yeah, now with Zoom, it's like every day is what they used to call a satellite tour. I don't know if you remember back in the day, a satellite tour cost a lot of money, and a publisher would put you on it. You'd sit in
a studio,
sit in a studio, and you'd be beamed to different radio stations, television stations. And now that's like, what? That's nothing.
Now we're on TV together.
Yeah, I love it. We just love it. You know, we have this. We built our Zoom pod here up in the attic, and there we go.
We do a weekly little Zoom cast called Ask the Oracles, where people we do readings for people and show them how our oracles and tarot work.
Yeah, we've been doing it since
but we have people
August
from all different countries.
We have people. Yeah, I mean, it spans the globe. We have people from Hawaii, Singapore, Israel,
I mean,
all over
with
Europe.
all the craziness in the world, there's such wonderful things going on that we can stay connected in amazing ways.
And we've had Weiser's authors on as guest oracles, like Teresa, right?
Yes, and we did some events with Weiser's.
Yeah, just did.
That was fun.
Just did an interview with Teresa Reed. I loved her. She's a great author as well.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's such a wonderful person. And I love the fact that when you see her Zoom thing, she's got the kitchen sink in the background.
Right.
I think that, I mean, talk about keeping it real.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you started this up in August, and you know, this will be archived, and you know, it'll be interesting to see how people relate to this. But you know, we are in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody was working with lockdown. Zoom is nothing that I ever used before.
Right.
All this went down. So there are benefits to this. I mean, is this something that would have developed without having?
Not as fast, I don't think. Not as fast.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're in the age of Aquarius, and that's all technology and different ways of connecting, you know, with communications. And I think, you know, for us, it's been wonderful. It's also a way to socialize, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the change of technology, I mean, I know that you mentioned that you do paper collage, you do fabric collage. Have you ever made the shift to electronic?
No.
No. Okay.
No, that's
I'm kind of resistant.
Okay.
Because I work with my hands. I actually collect hands, but I think, and it's so tactile, the materials that I use. So yeah, I'm not interested in it. And digital art to me sort of, you know, loses something. I think, you know, this is the balance to all the technology and all the rapid change that people, you know, Etsy is full of handmade, you know, craftspeople. So I think that's a nice balance now where people really are kind of drawn to handmade things as well.
But the thing
and
is,
one of a kind things.
But people have a tendency to think Amy's stuff is assembled digitally because it looks that tight and it looks that seamless. Even the paper collages, you know, because when we just got the proofs back for the Wild Goddess, and there's things if you really look, you can see that it's paper glued down, and I'm like, no, that's good. We want people to know that. You don't want it to be so perfectly photoshopped. But all that being said, we are starting to investigate the non-fungible token aspect of,
yeah,
we just started to investigate it yesterday, actually.
Aquarius.
Yeah, because our other oracle on the Ask the Oracles is a guy named Jeff Pulver, and he is a tech oracle.
Right.
He's the reason that we speak that people have phones that work over the internet.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw in your about section on your website that he was involved with the Zoom meeting. The weekly Zoom meeting that you've got going now. How did you run into him?
His wife collected Amy's clothing.
Aha! Okay, well, that's, you know, the synergy of both of you kind of working and networking together is just amazing. Just the
Yes. I
different
mean, working with,
energy.
you know, dressing women, that's a whole thing in itself. It's
Right.
so personal. And, you know, when I can, I use astrology and um, tap into their past lifetimes. When I do a personal commission for someone, which is my favorite thing to do, where I custom make their colors and their story. So I love it when people are bold enough to go for
Wow.
that. But you know, you learn all about how people feel about themselves and what they want to project, and it's fascinating to me.
That's Amy's rack at Bergdorf Goodman.
That looks
Actually,
beautiful.
now she has two.
Monty loves to show my rack.
I tell you, hey, you want to see it? I got photos of my wife's rack. You know what I'm saying? I did grow up in Brooklyn, right?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So you know, it's interesting because I'm looking at that rack and I'm looking
Oh, I'm
at
sorry.
what you're wearing in the picture there, and you know, the stuff on the rack is nice, but that thing, the coat that you're wearing there is just fantastic.
They're really, thank you. They're really
They're-
one of a kind.
they're
I make
wonderful.
them comfortable, but they're very kind of bohemian, unique. They feel good. They have all kinds of detail. I'm passionate about making them. And the art book that we showed you is a combination of my wall tapestries and my fashion. So it kind of tells the story of the creative process of all that.
And her
Actually,
jewelry.
Monty tells the story.
I tell the story. Actually, Jan helped us a little bit with
Yes. Well, Jan's such a
shaping.
great editor. And
Oh
we
my
worked
God,
with
yeah.
her so many times that this was like a retrospective. So it was kind of overwhelming us. And she really kind of helped us break it down
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
to make the book.
So when did that book release?
It's
August.
just coming out in August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is something that she's been doing freelance, because Jan left the
Yes.
company, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's definitely.
Yeah, we stay in touch, and then
Oh, great.
we just, you know, and we're so used to working with her, and she's so wise.
Yeah. She's a great editor for sure. I'm glad that she was on board with that.
Yeah, she,
So Monty, I'll get to you in a minute, but I'm still fascinated by this whole
No.
artwork stuff.
she's the interesting one.
I mean, you've got the racks at Bergdorf. You know, you've got the stuff that you create for yourself. You must have people coming to you kind of for personalized things, for kind of not off the rack stuff, for custom creations.
Yes.
How
I
often?
mean, I, you know, it's not as often as I would like, but because my work's very labor intensive, I
Right.
guess it's just about enough.
Well, there's a Saudi princess has 80 of her caftans. You know, so it comes in bursts. You know, when you get a client that all of a sudden gets into the work, then all of a sudden there's a burst of, like you just had someone buy 11 pieces.
Wow.
Well, they collect them, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's mostly what happens is they found something that, you know, it's right for them, that I can make just for them. And so sometimes when I'm creating something, I'm thinking of this person or that person, because I know what they like and what they don't have or what they might be looking for. And
Okay.
they really think of my fashions as, you know, an art collection.
Yeah.
Which is what it is, because that's what the energy that I put into it. So I have all these outlets. I have the books, I have the fashion, I have the wall pieces. I create jewelry too. So it's really hard for Monty to get me a present.
Someone asked me, what did you get Amy for her birthday? I said, I got her an art book.
Oh, nice.
Because we work as I work as the agent and the lawyer and the other stuff for that kind of stuff.
Great. So,
Yeah.
you know, we talked about Amy and what she was doing creatively. Monty, on your end, first off, did you keep up with the music?
No, I haven't. I mean, I do want to. I have a friend who's actually a drummer for a very famous rock band, and I haven't even played with him, but I want to. Someone just recently digitized my old band's music, so I got to hear it. So I feel like an old warhorse kicked in the stall.
Right.
But I've done a lot. I've done a lot of books. I mean, this gives you an idea of how many books.
Yeah. So you know, circling back around, one of the things that, oh wow, it's like I recognize even the ones we don't publish. I recognize most of them. It's kind of funny.
It is. I know, but we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Amy keeps coming up with titles. What can I tell you?
And then you have to write the book. That's great.
And sell
What a
them.
great team. So we were talking just before the interview that you do a lot of your own production. Who does that? I mean, who actually does the physical layout?
Believe it or not, Amy is really good at that.
I'm good at being bossy.
Right, she's an Aries. Well, we evolved, you would understand this. We evolved a technique where she would get up really early and deal with who you were dealing with, like China and Thailand.
Right.
And then I'd stay up late to deal with Europe.
Right. Okay.
But she got the
Well, we
most work.
We agent ourselves also. So Monte does the contracts, he does the importing, and
Yes.
as far as scheduling, I keep that going. And we found great places that we work with, in China.
Right.
But now
that's for a long time. We've worked with the same place for about 30 years.
Yes, but now we're 70 years old. We want to turn it over to you people, you younger people. Get out there and do that. Go deal with the port manager.
Well, we worked with, the graphic designer, everything. And, as a book packager, you present it to the publisher. So you're basically overseeing everything and getting their approval on the different steps and the different stages. We learned a lot. I mean, I think through all these things that we're talking about, you don't always do what you know how to do. You put your foot in, and then it takes you on this journey where you become, hopefully you become good at it. And so many people in the industry have been so helpful, to teach us things that we didn't know along the way.
And like I was saying before, we think of you and everyone who works at the Red Wheel Weiser and every publisher we work with. We think of you guys as artists. We don't think of ourselves in any elite style. We just do what we do. And the reason we can do what we do is because you do what you do.
Right.
We understand that. They used to say film was a collaborative effort. Well, publishing is even more of a collaborative effort. So we actually did something, believe it or not, called the Creativity Oracle, because we want people of all stripes to understand that they're creative. So that's one of Amy's tapestries on the cover.
Wow. In this book, we have 80 concepts. So we have procrastination,
the big one,
perfectionism, happy accidents, all the things that we all encounter. And so it gives you sort of insight into the next step, or, sometimes you got to let go too. So that's in there.
We have
rejection. We've been rejected many times. And sometimes people just are afraid of those various steps that maybe aren't as pleasant as some of the other ones, because we all want to win. We want acceptance. We want the positive outcomes always. And that's true of the tarot too. We're always looking for that card that says, yes, it's going to happen.
Yeah, but that's the Scylla and Charybdis of the New Age, is if anything negative.
Right.
Oh my God. Well, guess what? There's going to be negative stuff with no matter what happens. As you well know, if you get it, you can get it. Like I told you about my friend, she got on Oprah, but they didn't have the books in the stores.
Right.
So, there's only so much an individual can do.
I think we're very realistic because we work in the real world. We work in business, and we know how things work. So that's what we put into all of our books. So it's kind of practical advice, down to earth, straightforward. We give them the real stuff.
Right. Like if you're going to,
it's not woo woo how people think of the New Age.
That's the weirdest thing is we're actually very practical, down to earth. I don't want to say normal, because we're certainly not normal.
Paranormal.
I mean, we like to do.
Once someone called us the multi-mediums. I like that.
Oh, that's great. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, so getting back to where I was going, Monte. I mean, back in the 70s, you were writing things longhand, typing things up, and now all of a sudden we got word processing and desktop publishing. How has that impacted your creativity on the writing end of things?
Well, I type really well, so I can get my thoughts right out there. I mean, there's some things about the New Age, like Facebook, where I can actually write an article right in front of them. I do this sometimes, and they see me doing the corrections and the whole business. I mean, I love that, because as you know, with a book, it takes a while. It's got to get printed. It's got to get edited. It's got to get this.
Also, that's kind of fulfilling to you to just write on the spot. Also, he's psychic, so sometimes he just jumps on Facebook and does psychic readings for everybody.
That's weird. No, it is. No, but what's weird is it's accurate, because the psychic information is non-local. Getting back to quantum physics, there's no distance. It's like Well, a quantum entanglement where two things can be at opposite ends of the universe, and you'd spin one, the other one spin. Spooky action at a distance is what Einstein called it. And so you're the whole psychic. I think I became psychic writing all these books because I've had experiences where the only explanation is somebody who just died is talking to me, and I'm telling somebody stuff. I have no idea why I'm saying it, but this is what I get, and it turns out to be true. So I think developing your intuition eventually will help you get that psychic muscle developed. But once again, it's no big deal because it's just they're always talking about we only use 10% of our brain. Well, the other 90% we don't believe it. You can do it. I happen to believe I can do that. I do it. I've seen incredible things that prove it.
We stress intuition in all the books that we've written. I mean, that's what the tarot is, an exercise machine for your intuition, and doing astrology definitely enhances your intuition. It's sort of you're putting a picture together, and just the creative process, you're kind of stepping outside of yourself and letting information come through you. So I think now that we're in this pandemic, we've had to use our intuition, if you're lucky, to let it kick in, to know what's true, what's a lie, what's good for you, what's your next step. It's so important. I think we've been forced to maybe think about those things more.
And with quantum affirmations, sorry for the shameless self-promotion, but I've been of quantum affirming that there's ever going to be a second printing of this, so I'm working on it. But with quantum affirmations, it's a 5-step program. The first step is, what do you want? And that's usually what stops everybody. Because when people come to me for a psychic reading or an astrology reading, I'll say to them, well, what do you want?
What do you want to know?
What do you want to know? And most people don't know what they want to know. They're just like, well, read me. I'm like, well, that's not really the way it works. And then the step 2 is, why haven't you gotten what you wanted? But it uses a physics-based approach, thinking of consciousness as the smallest particle, so that there are probable futures that you can reach using the techniques in quantum affirmations. Because as Niels Bohr said, I'm paraphrasing, if you don't think that quantum physics is weird, you don't really understand it.
Right. So let me ask you this: when you're doing a reading, do you tend to use tarot over astrology? Is it a blend of the two?
I use them all. And usually I let some people actually want the tarot readings. Some people just want a psychic reading.
Right.
But he always is doing a combination of all of them anyway, because I think it kind of shakes up your attachment to whatever the person's asking about, or whatever your attachment that you bring to it. If they're asking about relationships, sometimes, they're so attached to the answer they want to get. So when they see the cards laid out, they can see that it's telling a story, maybe a different story of how to get there.
Yeah.
So in astrology, it's such a gift to see the cycles that we're in.
I've been teaching a 12-week astrology course in basic astrology, and I took people from interested to being able to read a chart in 12 weeks.
Right.
And that's a very fulfilling thing, because a chart looks like a pizza with topping on it, and I could teach people to get meaning out of that, because it's a useful thing, especially for people with children, because it helps you understand your kids.
Did we hold this one up?
Absolutely.
You got to hold them all up.
We like here, all levels.
We'll double it up here.
Like that. That's great.
It's Sun Sign Secrets. We like all levels of astrology. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with just sun sign astrology and learn a lot. I'm always asking people what their sign is. I don't care if they think I'm old hippie because I want to know, because I'm fascinated. I learned so much about the person just from that. But we go on, some of our books go deeper. This Sun Sign Secret, actually, it talks about if you're a parent, how to deal with your child, depending on what sign they are. If you're an employer, how to deal with employees.
We have a tendency to put everything we know at the time into our books, so that if you get stranded on a desert island, you'll come off as an expert on whatever that book was about. You'll know enough to amaze your friends and influence people.
So Sun Sign Secrets was published in 2014. That's when I just came back with the company. It is printed in purple, which I know I always love something kind of not along the same the ordinary path of printing black, black, black and everything. So definitely recommended from that angle. So you mentioned
And what sign are you?
I am Leo. I was
Wow.
born, August 16th, 1968 at 1 p.m. for anybody who is interested.
Wow, you were born during the
Do you know your rising offhand?
Scorpio rising, yes.
Oh, me too.
Scorpio rising, Leo rising.
You know, so those are both fixed signs, Leo and Scorpio. So are you stubborn?
Oh boy, depends on who you ask. Anybody who knows me would tell you yes. I like to say I'm fairly freewheeling, but yeah, I can be stubborn on the things that that I feel strongly about, for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
We're not going to use that grade of paper no matter how much you plead with me.
You know, it's funny that you mention it, because
I am psychic.
Yeah, there you go. So when the new people came in, when Jan and Michael purchased Samuel Weiser, you know, I was kind of stuck in the old ways, and they brought in a whole new regime, including, you know, pick a printer instead of, you know, multiple quoting on each job. Pick a printer, develop a relationship, and run with it. And one of them was a company that could get groundwood paper cheap, which, you know, definitely reduces costs by quite a bit. But in my heart, I was horrified that we were not printing on acid-free paper for a lot of the books we were doing. And, you know, it was one of those things where I dug my heels in, and it happens to be a battle that I lost. But yeah, so stubborn, sure. Yeah, I believe firmly in it. You know, it took me leaving the company for 8 years and coming back to get the perspective to say, you know what, sometimes that's okay.
But for the people out there, if they don't use acid-free paper, doesn't that mean it doesn't last as long?
Well, in 100 years, it'll be brittle, but you know, 10
Right,
years.
but we won't be there to argue about it.
No, and I mean, let's see. So right now I've got your books in a stack here, and I can tell right off the bat that the Soulmate Path, oh no, that was natural. Huh. Soulmate Path might have been on, yeah, the Soulmate Path was printed on groundwood, and you can tell it because it's yellowing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I hate to tell you this, but in 125 years, this will be crumbling. The rest of your books will be well preserved.
With any luck at all, it'll be reprinted after Amy takes her place in the pantheon.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you know, there's just a few artists that are as multi-talented as her, like Picasso one, Dolly another one. Dolly did a tarot deck. So
see how our marriage lasted so long.
Yeah,
well, I'm her biggest fan.
And I think Michael Kerber had a hand in the Dolly tarot. I know he's got a deck kicking around his office. You know, it's always a fantastic piece of art just in and of itself. You know, the velvet box, and I think he's got 5 or 6 inks going on. You know, with the gilded edges and the over-the-top production for the time, for sure.
Well, I love that you know about all that stuff and inks, and I mean that's a lifetime of information to know. You know, so that's why you have to be good at what you do. We have to be good at what we do, and
one of the things that always amazes me is you know, I've been doing this for a while. There's a lot of things that are just kind of ingrained. I do it naturally. It's habit. But then when somebody asks me what I'm doing and I have to describe it, all of a sudden it strikes me, wow, you know, I know a lot.
Yeah.
You guys have been doing this for a long time. Do you have?
We're a little older than you.
Exactly. But I mean, do you run into the same thing where you're going along with your life, you're doing what you do, and then all of a sudden something brings you up short and you're like, wow, I actually have a lifetime in this. You know, what comes easy to me.
Doing the new retrospective art book really was like that, because I had to look back over everything I'd done and look through slides and then transparencies. Wow. You remember those?
Oh, yeah.
And also, to really appreciate it. I mean, sometimes we just randomly look at one of our books and we don't, you know, it's like, did you write that?
I don't really remember.
You don't remember because, I mean,
I think
it's sort of a high when you're writing and creating art. And, you know, if you can take the time to step back and kind of appreciate it, it's a good thing.
That, for me, that only recently happened. I know that sounds insane, but I think that the tsunami finally crashed on the shore of my consciousness. It's just like, you know, because when you realize what you've done and who you've done it with and all these things that have happened, when they're happening, you don't realize how important it is or how interesting it is. You're just trying to get through it.
But you're right. It does become a part of who you are naturally, a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of doing. You know, it has to be that way or else we go out of our minds.
Right. So, Monte, you mentioned something earlier that leads me to ask this. You know, outside within our milieu, you know, the new age and whatnot. You know, it's pretty obvious to us that you can develop intuition, you can develop psychic ability. Outside in the general public, not so much. How do you explain how to develop intuition and how to develop psychic ability to people who kind of don't have the grounding that we have, that aren't moving in the same world that we do?
Well, I like I said before, we live in the Hamptons, and I read for a lot of people who've made a lot of money with basically gambling, which is what investment is. And they'll say, well, I don't really have much of an intuition, but I fly by the seat of my pants, or I go by my gut. I said, it's exactly the same thing. We're talking about the same thing using a different way. But the strangest thing, Michael, is that most people have had psychic experiences, but they don't talk about it. The number one card in our creativity oracle is fear, because that is the destroyer. That'll stop people from sharing their experience. But when I do a reading for them, they'll tell me, you know, I saw my grandmother when she died at the foot of my bed. You know, it's stuff like that they'll never tell people because they're afraid of being judged as odd. And you're a Leo, so you don't care, and I'm an Aquarius, so I don't care. You know, that's but I think people don't really understand how much we don't care.
Right.
About the
I think people are less skeptical, or we don't run into it that much anymore, because it's sort of cool to have been to a psychic. It's cool to have had your chart done. I mean, you can see the popularity of tarot and astrology now. It's sort of everywhere, which we always wanted. It's sort of like seeing organic food everywhere in every, you know, grocery store, which when we were young, if we had dreamed that, you know, we wouldn't have thought it was possible.
I think that's another reason that I've been appreciating what we've done, is because we did it because we wanted to get people interested in all these things. Like Karma Cards gets you into astrology. It's not the ultimate astrology book, but you'll learn astrology. Enchanted Tarot, same thing. At that time, it was all spooky, and it means this and ancient Egypt. Who cares? It's like a search. We taught people that tarot is a search engine. So now everybody's got an oracle deck. And I mean, it's like one of those posters used to be where everybody becomes what they wanted to be when they were kids. So there's like 1 million ballerinas and 700 cops and firemen walking down the street. You know, everyone's got an oracle deck. So we've succeeded and turned everybody into spiritual. You know, there's a girl on TikTok. She's 22. She does astrology readings in a bikini. You know, she has 1 million followers.
We never could have predicted that.
No. No, but we have people come up to us all the time, or write to us actually, since no one comes up to anybody anymore, and say, oh, your deck was my first deck. It really got me into it. My mother gave you this, because it's been out since 1990, you know, the Enchanted Tarot, and in continuous print. And same thing with Karma Cards, continuous print since '88. So I think that's why your question is good, because it's only recently occurred to us. All of a sudden we're respected elders, when before it was just like, you know, clawing our way through the usual production issues. You know, it's like, oh my God, are they going to tax books? What the hell's going on? You know, all this stuff.
But I think we've always thought of ourselves like the Johnny Appleseeds of tarot and astrology. Just over the years, taxi drivers, you start talking, they got amazing stories of all the same stuff that, you know, amazing experience, magical experiences, you know, the doorman, you know, wherever we go, we start talking about what we do. And the
porters at the airports, I don't think they have many more. Those are some like of the most teachers, every one of them. You know, you go to and they'd be telling you stuff like, really? You know, it's like having Krishnamurti carrying your bags. but you know, you got to listen for it, right? Gold. They say gold is where you find it.
But what's funny is sometimes people go to us, you're not going to believe this, but you know, I had a dream about blah, blah, and it's like, we're not going to believe it.
What, are you kidding me? Yeah, but I think people are ready for it. I mean, in the last week, we've been inundated with people sending us links to these two articles, Elle Magazine and Forbes, about how the lockdown has
The millennials are so into, you know, whatever
spirituality, whatever you want to call it.
You know, crystals, tarot, astrology, just how big and happening these things are. It's a thing.
Right. There was even an article in the New York Times that said tarot is a thing. That was the actual headline. And so we take, not that we're the only ones who did it, but we're certainly, you know, early adopters and we're not the last people standing, but we're among the last people. Luckily, we're very healthy.
Well, I got into astrology like 1970. One of my painting teachers at Pratt Institute, where I studied art, was an expert in it. And my roommate, you know, he said he would look at our charts. That like initially just got me so interested to see that it was a psychological language. I started studying it, and I was studying it when I met Monte.
And I was studying Amy, so I learned astrology, and I thought it was all a bunch of crap. And then I realized there was stuff too. And you know, her roommate was a man named Rupert Smith, who ended up doing a lot of the printing for Andy Warhol.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, he had a company called Rock and Roll, and I'll never forget. He had this flowing blonde hair. He said, well, the music's okay, but you're going to make it as a writer.
He was looking at Monte's astrology chart.
Yeah. And I was like, and he was very good.
You know, those moments mean so much to people. People tell us stories that they went to an astrologer when they were young, and the astrologer said, you know, the path they were going to take, and it stuck with them forever. And unfortunately, you know, if somebody's a bad astrologer, that sticks also.
I've actually had readings from bad astrologers. Well, you'll make the decision when you're 76 whether you'll live or die. Bye. I was like, what?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I was like, well, that's useful, but he was doing it when I was 40.
Well, people have to be very discerning, right? It's like finding a good doctor or a good dentist. So.
Yeah, it's fun though.
One of the old co-owners of Samuel Weiser was Betty Lundstedt, and she's an astrologer. She was an astrologer, and it was very funny because you know, I was interviewing for the new position. She's like, you don't have to, but if you'd like to, you could give me your birth data, and I'll do a chart for you. And you know,
nice.
Oh, okay, here you go. You know, and so she does my chart, she outputs it, and I'm sitting around waiting to hear if I get the job or not. And she's looking at my chart. But I got the job. And you know, I have a lot of planets, I believe, in my 9th house, which she is
publishing.
Perfect. Yes.
It's publishing.
It's publishing
and philosophy.
And it was super interesting because you know, she would never admit it, but well, she did admit it. She's like, you know, you're the first dude I've had in this position in about 20 years, and pretty much it boiled down to your chart. And it was like, oh, okay, well, that changed.
Wow,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we don't do the charts of the people we work with, but I
mean, that's probably a good thing.
No, I mean, we'll do it if they ask us, but you know, it's like training wheels, you know. It's great, it's wonderful, but you shouldn't. Free will is more powerful than everything. At least I try to think that.
I happen to be a nice guy and a quick learner too. So.
That's I can tell.
Let me ask you, Monte, can you throw Amy's book back up on the screen, because that's the next work that you all have coming out. Is that correct?
We have an astrology book coming out next month called Mindful Astrology. It's all about your sun, moon, and rising sign. That's also with Cordo.
How I spent my pandemic again.
I was going to say, so if that's coming out next month, you're done with that for the most part, aside from the promotion, yeah?
You'd hope so.
Right? Yeah, no kidding. If you're not done with it, then something went really wrong.
Right, well, there's going to be errors and omissions.
All the different facets of bringing a book to life. I mean, unless you've done it, people don't really understand, because they say, are you still working on that book? It's like, yes, because, you know, it's back and forth, you know, in the editing process, and then it's the marketing process, and then you...
And the art book, if that's pubbing in August, you must be wrapping that up on your end as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
we've
it just went up on Amazon, for pre-order.
Right. Okay.
And it's just being laid out. That's the stage that it's in now.
Got it.
you'll appreciate this. So we see a cover and we love it because they have a good design department. And then they want the owner of the company wants to change it because he doesn't think it's good enough for Amy. So we're having we're having this argument. I'm like, wait a minute.
Like, but we like it.
But wait a minute. We like the one that you sent us. I said, you're going to be dining out on this story for a long time. An author who likes the cover and is fighting with you to keep the cover that you designed. But it ended up being this one, which we like even better. More. And so that's what we mean. The people that work in the companies and people who work, no matter what you do, you can use creativity. I mean, I've worked at Coney Island selling hot dogs. I don't know if I was using creativity. I was 16, so I'd like to think I was using creativity.
But this book, it was challenging because, it's everything that we've done. It has a chapter of oracles, it has a chapter of my fashion, and it has all the different themes that I work with, sacred spaces and dreams. So we made it for the mind, body, spirit category in publishing. You have to have a focus.
Yeah. Where they're going to rack it.
Your primary category. But we went back and forth, should it be in the art category or in fashion or
I think, on our end, we always say publish to your strengths. So,
yes.
That's what happened.
That's what happened. So it really is kind of a journey. It opens up where we welcome you into my studio.
Right.
And we really talk about the creative process in our terms of mind, body, spirit.
For a while, our friend Patty Gift was working at Sterling, which was for a while called, more accurately, Barnes and Noble Publishing.
Right.
And so we ended up with this. We're usually a top shelf promotion at the spiritual and mystic of every Barnes and Noble. So like what you're saying, publish to your strengths.
Right. I mean, it's good to have friends like that. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Len Riggio used us as an example at one point. He said about what he thought would be a good thing. We need more like this. So we've been very, very fortunate. But this was a classic example of quantum affirmations because Amy and I said to each other, we got to.
This was years ago. We made a fake shelf at home for Barnes and Noble, and we made, what's it called? A
shelf talker.
Oh yeah.
We put Enchanted World. We visualized it before it happened.
And all our friends in publishing said, "You guys are nuts. You can't get your own shelf. You can't get your own shelf in Barnes and Noble." I was like, "Well, I don't know. We're going to try." And so we did it. And then because of Patty and because of Len Riggio, we did. Of course, awesome. You're at the mercy of stock clerks.
Right.
Who we like to think are as artistic as anybody.
No, stocking a shelf is all about design and whatever.
Yes, exactly. But as you know, a lot of first-time authors especially are like, first question back in the day, when do I get on Oprah? And the second question is, when can I have all my books in a big pile at the front of Barnes and Noble?
Right. And for first-time authors, that does not happen often. I mean,
no.
How many years have you guys been in it until that happened that you had a shelf at Barnes and Noble?
Wasn't that like 2005, right?
Yeah. So we started in 1988 with our first book.
So that's going to be 17 years going on 20 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. So you youngins.
Yeah, you young. And this is going to be an interesting time for you.
Pay your dues.
Because you said you're born in 68.
Yeah.
So in June, the end of June, there's going to be an eclipse. And there's something called the Saros cycle of eclipses, how the light goes across the earth, and it repeats every 54 years.
Oh, God.
And so this eclipse is hearkening back to 67.
Oh, okay.
And because you were born during the 60s, which was the Uranus-Pluto conjunction, which is, you guys are actually doing the work of changing the world.
Wait, your parents in the Summer of Love, something was going on? Summer
of Love, baby, it's coming back.
Man, if you knew my parents, you would know that that's so far away from the truth. Hey, same energy, right? So we'll
yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
No, we do predict another Summer of Love, different this year, but so we think things are going to get a lot better by then.
I mean, astrologically, the lockdowns, except for places like New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, and maybe Los Angeles, we think the lockdowns are going to be over by Memorial Day, astrologically.
Right.
So for those of you who are watching this in the time capsule, we locked down, baby. Hold Hold fast. I don't have the
All right.
tattoos, but I have the.
But you got the meaning. All right.
Yeah.
So we're over an hour. This is the Weiser Books Radio Hour. And as much as I'd love to keep chatting with y'all, I got to call it quits. So if you want to let listeners and readers know where they can find you online, I'd love to give them that information.
Sure, it's theenchantedworld.com, and you can go to or amyzerner.com or Monte with an E, montefarber.com. But the Enchanted World will take each one will take you to the other ones. So once you hook up there, you're good.
Perfect. All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, guys.
So
Pleasure
much
was
fun.
ours.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. You've been listening to the Weiser Books Radio Hour. Find us online at www.weiserbooks.com and wherever you listen to podcasts.